on HQ. It is a huge weekend in college hoops, and we have the one and only Tim Doyle joining us for some rapid-fire college basketball top 25 picks edition. And Tim, we are kicking off with the game that is on CBS. Kansas State at number 9, Kansas. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster with Kansas, despite still being in the top 10. You know, they hit the portal, they got some depth. They're 15.5-point favorites here, but is that number 2 big in this matchup? Where are you at on Kansas State and Kansas?
Well, last week we did this, and we had a winning week. We had straight up picks. We had picks against the spread. We're going to give you a little sprinkle of everything here. And should Kansas be favored in this game? Absolutely. Kansas State, this has been a disaster of a season. They hit the portal as well, and they spent a ton of money. And they were hoping the turn of the calendar was going to be different for Kansas State. They lost by 1 to TCU. They got embarrassed by Houston at home. They lost by 4 recently at Texas Tech, and they only scored 57 points in that game. All right, season's a disaster, but now you get Kansas. And you're going to give me 15.5 points? I'm going to take Kansas State in this spot. Kansas, as you've seen, a bit up and down at times, certainly one of the best teams in the country. You're seeing Hunter Dickinson there. Should they be favored? Yes. 15.5 points, that's crazy to me. I'll take the dog.
Yeah, Tim is, taking some plus money with K-State. That one's Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern on CBS. Let's go to Saturday at noon Eastern on CBS Sports Network. We have Houston and UCF. Houston rattling off 9 straight wins against UCF. Not ranked, but not bad, Tim, sitting at 12-4 on the season.
No, and this is like a huge game for them, right? This is like your resume game. You get a shot against Houston here. Here's what I like about UCF. Keyshawn Hall. The guy is a bucket. You know, recently UCF beat Arizona State, and then they went to Arizona afterwards. Did not get embarrassed in that game. Why did they get embarrassed? Well, Keyshawn Hall had 40 points in a loss to Arizona. Once again, Houston should be favored. I just think it's too many points. I'm going to take the dog.
All right, we have ranked on ranked in the SEC, a top 10 matchup with number 4 Bama and number 8 Kentucky. Bama, of course, coming off that loss to Ole Miss, and meanwhile Kentucky looking to get 3 straight wins. Where's your head at, Tim?
This game's awesome. I mean, look at the total, 178. I mean, it's almost like an NBA total. But talk about points. There's Mark Pope. He is like helping UK fans forget about the old John Calipari there, and they've been outstanding. I'm going to take Kentucky here on the money line, just because 1.5, right? You and I were sliding each other's DMs recently, as far as, you know, when you lay 1.5, and then woo, 3 at the buzzer, and they only win by 1. It's like, I won the game. Now you didn't cover the spread. So I'm just going to go Kentucky here on the money line. I love Alabama. They're my pick to win it all. They were my pick before the season. But the difference is they're going to be down at Rupp, one of the best environments in all of college sports. You know what Kentucky has? The secret sauce. They have the formula. They got old guys. They got 50-year guys. They got guys that have been in college since 1987. Like, they have chemistry and experience. That's the difference for me. Give me Kentucky.
All right, let me clarify. Tim was coming into my DMs to tell me why he doesn't like the line of 3.5. That's just for some context here. All right, let's go over to Creighton at number 14, UConn. Man, UConn, I feel like I'm exhausted from just watching their season. They bounced back from a loss to Villanova. They lost there, of course. Then they went over Georgetown. They're 6.5-point favorites here, Tim.
Yeah, you get UConn fatigue a little bit, isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
Out there, yeah. Sounds like a Florida fan to me. I don't know, but maybe it's just, you know, rooting for the Gators with that impressive all-conference performer you were on the dance team there. I'm going to go UConn minus the points. Now, I will say this. 6.5, like what we talked about when I slid in your DMs. I don't love laying 6.5. I would probably want to buy this down to 3.5, maybe 4.5. Now, Liam McNeely's a bit banged up, but Creighton, you know, they missed Pops Isaacs. They're just not the same squad they have been in years before. And players and coaches don't forget. Last year when UConn won a national championship, they went to Omaha. And you know what happened? They got smacked around by Creighton, okay? So give me UConn in this spot. I'll lay the points.
All right, let's go back to the SEC because we have the newly number 1 ranked Auburn Tigers taking on number 23 Georgia. And Auburn, they're going to have to try to figure out how to get it done without the guy who is in the National Player of the Year conversation for a reason in Janai Broome, who is dealing with that injury still.
Yeah, not having Broome obviously hurts Auburn, but they're a squad that can score. That's why the difference for me is they're getting almost 90 a game. And Georgia, their last 2 losses, they scored 56 and 51. So, you lay 8.5 on the road in a conference game. You're kind of asking for it. So I guess I am asking for it. But Bruce Pearl's got depth. He's got other guys that can step up, score the basketball. That's the difference for me. Auburn could get 100. Georgia might get 50. So, it's just too big of a variance here. Georgia's had a tough time, especially when you slow them down, put them in the half-court type of game. So I'm going to lay 8.5 here with the Tigers.
Yeah, and you know what? The SEC is just beating up on each other. And then we have Duke sitting in the ACC right now at number 3, just watching it all, sit back and happen. And, of course, they have a very impressive guy in their own right in Cooper Flagg. They're taking on Boston College on Saturday.
Yeah, I always said if I had a 4th child, it would be John Morant Doyle. I may name it Cooper Flagg Doyle, okay? That's how much I love Cooper Flagg. By the way, Cooper's got a brother, and his name is Ace. Ace Flagg's a better name than Cooper
that's
Flagg.
A great name.
Okay, I like Boston College. What data do I have to like them? Ooh, don't have much, okay? But you're getting 21.5 at home in conference. Last time Boston College played, they got smacked around by Notre Dame. They lost that game by 18 points. They've lost 3 straight games. Duke's won 11 straight, and they've won 4 of their last 5 games by 23 or more. But these are the dog days of January. Right when you get into mid-January, late January, you start all right, where are we going to go, Boston? It doesn't matter. This game does not matter to Duke, right? They're already a number 1 seed. They're looking long-term, getting into the tournament, playing well in March. Just checking out the odds right now. They're your favorite at 5-1 to cut down the nets in San Antonio and win it all. I think this is a dog days game, meaning they win, but it's ugly. Maybe they win by 14. 21.5 points is insane on the road in conference play. So it's one of those bets. And I want to see this. Jacqueline, come on camera with me. Take one hand, put it over one eye. Take the other hand, put it over the other eye, okay? And then just say Boston College, Boston College, Boston College. You have to say it 3 times to believe it. Do it right now. Do it.
Boston College, Boston College, Boston College. I'm clicking my heels, my ruby slippers underneath the desk for you, Tim.
Great.
Perfect. All right, love that. I thought you were gonna give me a follow or some Glinda moment where you're saying you can go home now, but you just kind of left me hanging out to dry. All right, let's go to Texas and Florida. And the Gators kind of just ruined my weekend because I got really excited when they beat Tennessee. Then they lose to 1 by to freaking Mizzou. Whatever. I'm trying to move on. But do you like them to bounce back in this spot against Texas?
I don't know who I like in this game, okay? I do think that they're going to win. 10.5 makes me uneasy. I am looking at the total. Is the only total I am giving out because I think both teams have the potential to score 80. Florida right now is scoring at a high rate, 86 points per game. So obviously, if both teams get 80, you don't have to be a mathematician. That's 160 right there. So I'm going to go over the team total here. I can't see Texas slowing down the Gators, and I can't see Texas not getting, 73 or 74 points. If they carry their weight, I do believe Florida wins this game. I'm just a little nervous to lay 10.5 with the Gators here. Had an outstanding year. Get excited. Do you still have any of the old? Did you hold a pom-pom? Did you hold anything when you were on the sidelines there?
Yeah, I have pom-poms. I have my Letterman jacket. I have my ring because I was there the year where we lost to UConn in the Final Four, and Shabazz, UConn, that whole squad then went on to win.
Okay, see, now I understand the UConn fatigue.
Exactly.
Got it. See,
exactly.
There was always a little hidden agenda there. I never knew about it. There it was. True to form.
Exactly, just for some context there. Now, speaking of Texas, Tennessee, after losing to losing to Florida, picked up wins against Texas and Georgia. I don't know, am I speaking it into existence? Are they going to lose to Vandy? Where are you at? Is the hammer coming out for Tennessee Vandy?
Great call. You want to know something? You asked for the hammer, you'll get the hammer here. I'm going to be hammering Vanderbilt plus the points, okay? This is one of the biggest games they've ever played in the history of the school. Why am I saying that? Because they're 14-3, and if you win a game like this and you're the head coach, Mark Byington, now you start getting that NCAA buzz. Now you've turned the ship around. The coach of Vandy sort of has the coach of Indiana football vibes. He guy just really knows what he's doing. I don't know if he's just crazy on the microphone, but huge game for Vandy, and they're at home. They got the weird court with the benches that are under the hoop. Don't love that, but I do love that I'm getting 7.5. I think this game's going to go right down to the wire. So maybe a little sprinkle there. Money line. Do they charge the floor? right? You beat Tennessee, you charge the floor for your Vandy, right? So the hammer is out.
I don't think you can charge the floor if they're the number 6 team. If they're the number 1, maybe. But 6.
Yeah, but you're Vandy. You're Vandy. You're basically right. You ever see the movie She's All That? Like, you're ugly Laney Boggs right now. You win this game, you take the glasses off, you get a little lipstick on, and you're a 10. Like, that was one of the. She was pretty the whole time. I don't know why they always dressed her up. They just put her in overalls and some glasses.
All I'm saying is that we need to raise the standard for court storming. All right, next up, number 2 Iowa State at West Virginia. What is the play?
I love West Virginia in this spot plus 6.5. Now, earlier in the year, they knocked off at Gonzaga. They beat at Kansas. Recently, they were in the top 25. I do think Iowa State's the better team, and I do believe Iowa State should be favored. 3.5, 6.5 at home. So I think you're seeing a common theme here with me in conference games, especially with home teams. So I'm not going to take every single one that's a home dog. I mean, that's just not going to happen. But Iowa State, if you get them in the half court, you slow them down. I think you can muddy up this game. I think West Virginia can actually win this game, even though they're not at 100% health-wise. I do think this is a game that's going to be really competitive. So 6.5 points, I'll take all of them. All
right, let's see if the hammer stays out. We're back to ranked on ranked, this time talking about Purdue and Oregon. Where are you at on this one?
Purdue has a great bar that I went to off air. It's called Harry's Chocolate Shop, but they're not going to be there. They're going to be far away from Harry's, and they've been on the West Coast
very far
since Tuesday. Okay? So they played Washington on Wednesday, and now they're sticking around to play Oregon on Saturday. So they're hot right now. Purdue has won 6 straight. Oregon's won 3 straight. Here's why I like Oregon. I watched their game against Penn State, and that's not an easy place to go to. By the way, it's the most nerve-wracking flight of all time. It's like you fly in the mountains there in Happy Valley, and obviously I was flying in the winter and I played in the Big Ten. Terrible. And there was nothing you could take because you didn't want to sure if they were going to drug test you. I'm going to go Oregon here because their win at Penn State, they shot 54% in the win at Penn State. Penn State can lock up. Mike Rhodes is a good defender, great coach, and his guys can certainly defend. I like Oregon here on the money line.
All right, we have 5 more picks to go. We're talking about number 24 Wisconsin at USC next. What do you like?
All right, so quick story about Wisconsin. I was warming up there, and this game is not there at Wisconsin, but I stole a T-shirt from the Grateful Red, and the police went into my locker, and they found the T-shirt, and the coach was not happy.
Why were they in there in general? They had to have been looking for something else. Like, were they tipped off? Like,
no, I think they had me on camera. Like, that was the last time I stole anything because, like, the T-shirts were out before the game, and I was like, ooh, I just, like, snagged one. It was like a tie-dye T-shirt. Anyway, they traveled. They're leaving Madison. I looked at the weather this weekend. It's supposed to be -3 degrees in Madison. Now you go out to USC, can't go outside because of the fires, all right? But USC is hot. They've won 2 straight, and their win at Illinois was fantastic. Here's a name to remember. St. Thomas. First name St., last name Thomas. Transfer from Loyola. Guy was outstanding against Iowa. Took 10 shots, made 9. USC's like back in the NCAA hunt after beating Illinois and Iowa. Give me USC here on the money line.
All right, next up we have Xavier and number 7 Marquette. I lived in Cincinnati for a little bit, Tim, and I know that Xavier, historically, they're pretty good at basketball. So I just, based off of vibes, like I kind of like Xavier, plus 9.5.
Yeah, these 2 teams played earlier this year, and it was a 2-point game, right down to the wire. So now I got to lay 9.5 with Marquette. If you watched Marquette this week against DePaul, that game was on CBS Sports Network. Shout out to Steve Lapis and Chris Lewis on the call that game. But Marquette looked awful. I mean, they should have lost to DePaul, and DePaul hasn't won a conference game in the Big East since, like, George Bush was president. Like, that's how bad they are. So, like, recently Xavier beat Villanova, who's playing better. They smacked around DePaul, and they've had so many close losses this year. They lost by 4 to TCU, 3 to Cincinnati. They lost to UConn in overtime, and obviously I talked about that first matchup. Ryan Conwell at 34 points against Villanova. I'm not saying Xavier could win this game, but 9.5 points is crazy. The hammer is out. Hammer the Musketeer.
All right, perfect. And we're going to finish out with some SEC matchups, starting with LSU at number 11, Texas A&M. Does the hammer stay out for this one or not?
That's a great question. Okay. Of all the games out there, this is the one I'm going to throw back to you because I was going back and forth about this game. So because Texas Tech is home and LSU has been up and down, this is a spread that's going to be mighty high. So you're going to have to kind of dive deeper into the numbers. But if you just want a money line play in this spot, Texas A&M rolls.
Yeah, I'll go Texas A&M too. I feel like we're at a point now where if LSU picks up another win, we're gonna have like 15 SEC teams that are in the bracket come March, and I'm trying to get away from that as a Gator fan. So we're finishing out with ranked on ranked in the SEC, and again, like something we keep saying, ranked on ranked in the SEC, but we have Ole Miss and Mississippi State. What do you like?
Yeah, well, Ole Miss just had an amazing win, right? Just knocked off Alabama on the road, and as for Mississippi State, they have 2 straight losses. So I think a bit of a letdown spot here for Ole Miss, but I'm not going to lay 5.5. I'm going to take Mississippi State on the money line, so you're going to have to lay a pricey number here because that 5.5, like we talked about, just makes me uncomfortable. Josh Hubbard for Mississippi State has to be better. In their last 2 losses, Josh Hubbard's taken 28 shots. My man's only made 7. You got to be better than 25% from the field, kid. So I expect Hubbard to have a bounce back game, obviously rivalry game, electric environment there. There ain't nothing else to do. No other pro sports there in Mississippi. One of the fun things to teach like a young child, I have 3 of them, how to spell Mississippi. I mean, that's one of the best. And everyone, if you slow them down, they can't spell it. They just spell it really fast with a lot of S's and a lot of I's. So if you want to have a fun thing, slow down someone to spell Mississippi, but they have to be between 7 and 9 years old.
I was gonna say MISSISSIPPI, but I'm also 32, so I'm not between 7 and 9. So I'm like I'm out of the age. I've aged out of that trick. Tim, we certainly appreciate it giving us picks in college hoops for the ranked teams that are in action tomorrow. Speaking of which, number 9 Kansas, where Tim was actually taking the plus money with Kansas State. This matchup is on CBS Saturday, 1 o'clock Eastern, and streaming on Paramount Plus as well.